All right, folks, buckle up, because today's deep dive is a real doozy. We're taking a look at a blog post titled, I Have a Plan, Elsa,
I have a plan. Okay.
written by Stefan Pinkwart. And, well, it's about Poetry Slam.
Poetry Slam.
Yeah, but the thing is, it uses Egon Olsen as inspiration.
Egon Olsen, as in the mastermind criminal.
You got it. From the Olsen band and films, yeah. So we're going to figure out what heisting vaults has to do with writing poetry.
Sounds intriguing, to say the least.
So the author, Pinkwart, he starts with Egon, looking dapper, as always, in the middle of a heist.
Okay.
And he's cracking the safe while his partners Benny and KL are doing their usual thing, stumbling around, mumbling, just generally creating chaos.
Classic Olsen bandin.
Totally. It's like a textbook setup for one of their misadventures.
Excellent.
Anyway, they manage to snag the loot, they celebrate for a second, and then bam, alarms are blaring, everything's going haywire. Is hilarious.
So using this kind of comedic scene to introduce this idea of embracing failure, especially when it comes to performance.
That's the gist of it, yeah. Pinkwart seems to be saying that even when things go spectacularly wrong, there's a lesson to be learned.
I like that.
It makes you wonder, though, if these, lovable crooks can find success even with all that chaos. Maybe there's some hope for the rest of us, right?
Right. Those of us who trip up on stage, metaphorically or literally speaking.
Exactly. So Pinkwart isn't condoning criminal behavior, of course.
Of course not.
But he is highlighting Egon's persistence and his ability to kind of adapt when things go off the rails, which happens quite a bit.
He's saying basically in Poetry Slam, just like in those heists, things rarely go exactly as planned.
Right, right.
And it's those moments of failure, the deviations from the script, that can actually create this really special connection with the audience.
So are we saying we should all try to be like Egon when we're performing? Like, should we plan elaborate schemes and rig the stage with explosions?
Okay, maybe let's not go that far. I think the point is more about, being prepared to improvise and use those unexpected hiccups to your advantage.
So be comfortable with imperfection.
Exactly. And realize that those unplanned moments can sometimes be the most engaging ones.
Okay, so no actual explosions on stage. Got it.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of expecting things to go a little sideways.
Because honestly, who wants to see a completely predictable performance?
Right, exactly. Boring, a little chaos, a little spontaneity keeps things interesting.
Absolutely. Makes it more memorable, too.
And that brings us to Pinkwart's Radical Poetry Slam tips.
Okay, let's hear them.
Tip number 1. Fail loud and proud. Your audience will love it.
Fail loud and proud. I like that. How does he relate that back to Egon Olsen, though?
Well, he uses those over-the-top failures, from those films
Yeah.
as examples, like
Yeah.
their getaway car breaking down, or maybe they accidentally set off fireworks in a bank vault.
Ah, I see. He's saying those spectacular crashes and burns can almost become legendary. And that by owning our failures, even exaggerating them, we can actually create this connection with the audience. It's about being vulnerable and authentic.
Yeah, it's like saying, hey, I messed up, but let's laugh about it together. It can be incredibly endearing to an audience.
Totally disarming. Because when you're willing to share your failures, especially in a humorous way, it shows the audience that you're human, You let them see your flaws, and that makes you more relatable.
It's a powerful message.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, we all fail. We all have moments where we trip up or say the wrong thing. But it's how we handle those moments that truly defines us.
It really is. And learning to laugh at ourselves and embrace those imperfections can turn a potential disaster into a triumph.
Absolutely. It's a valuable lesson for anyone, whether you're a seasoned performer or just starting out.
Agreed.
So, fail loud and proud. Got it. What's the second tip?
Plan like a genius, but leave room for chaos. Plan like a genius, but leave room for chaos.
So how do we actually put that into practice? Should we build in some, intentional mishaps into our performance?
Intentional mishaps like what? Dropping your notes or something?
Yeah, or pretend to forget a verse.
I don't think it's about, manufacturing chaos. It's more about recognizing that those unexpected events can and probably will happen, and then being ready to kind of roll with it,
Okay.
Think of it like this. You have your poem, right? It's your roadmap for the performance. But you also have this mental toolkit of jokes, improvisational skills, that ability to connect with the audience on the fly. So when something unexpected happens, you reach into that toolkit and use those skills to navigate the situation.
So having a plan B. But for every possible scenario.
Not necessarily a plan for every scenario,
Sure.
more like a flexible mindset.
Yeah.
Pinkhorn actually gives a hilarious example in the blog post.
Oh, yeah.
So imagine a presenter on stage and suddenly their pants fall down.
Okay.
Right. Most people would be mortified. But this presenter, instead of panicking, they just roll with it. They make a joke about, battling gravity or something. The audience is roaring with laughter, and it becomes this unforgettable moment.
Okay, that's pretty funny. And it makes me think about those times when I've completely blanked on stage.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have just embraced the awkward silence, turned it into a bit about my terrible memory or something.
Exactly. It's about turning a potential disaster into a comedic triumph. And that's what makes a performance engaging and memorable, right? People don't just want to hear a perfectly rehearsed piece. They want to see the human behind the words, the vulnerability, the ability to laugh at themselves.
So we should all be prepared to lose our pants on stage. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
Well, maybe not literally. But the idea is to be comfortable with the unexpected. It's about trusting yourself to handle those curveballs and use them to create something even more engaging than you initially planned.
This all ties back to the author's main point. The audience forgives almost everything except boredom,
So true.
right? I mean, we can forgive flubs, technical difficulties, even wardrobe malfunctions, as long as the performer keeps us entertained.
And that's what Egon Olsen does so brilliantly.
He does.
He might end up in jail at the end of every film. But he's never boring. He's always scheming, pushing the boundaries, keeping us on the edge of our seats. And that's the kind of energy we should bring to the stage.
It's that spark of unpredictability.
Yeah.
That willingness to take risks and break the mold. That's what makes a performance captivating. And I think that applies to, not just poetry slam, but any kind of creative expression, really.
Oh, absolutely. Whether it's writing, music, public speaking, it's about finding your voice, embracing your unique style, and connecting with your audience in an authentic and engaging way. And sometimes that means letting go of the reins a little bit.
Right.
Trusting your instincts and allowing the chaos to lead you to something unexpected and brilliant.
So, dear listener, whether you're a seasoned slam poet or someone who's terrified of public speaking, this blog post offers a really refreshing and surprisingly insightful perspective. It's about embracing imperfection, being prepared for the unexpected, and above all, having fun.
Having fun.
Pinkhorn even recommends his book, Poetry Master, which, he says, will help you write texts that hit like a safecracker and master any stage, even when the alarm goes off.
Sounds like a must-read for anyone who wants to unleash their inner wordsmith and inject a little Egon Olsen-style audacity into their performances.
And with that, we've come to the end of our deep dive into this unconventional and surprisingly entertaining blog post.
Unconventional for sure.
But before we wrap things up, let's go back to the author's final question. What's your plan? What's your plan, dear listener, for tackling those creative endeavors, for embracing those moments of chaos, and for captivating your audience with your unique voice?
It's a question worth pondering because the stage, metaphorical or literal, is waiting. And as Pinkhorn reminds us, the most compelling stories are often the ones that deviate from the script, embrace the unexpected, and dare to fail spectacularly.
And maybe invest in a good belt, just in case those pants really do decide to take a dive.
A wise precaution indeed. But on a more serious note, this deep dive has revealed some really fascinating connections between the world of criminal masterminds and the art of performance.
Who would have thought that Egon Olsen could be such a muse for, aspiring poets and public speakers?
Right.
It's all about the unexpected twist, isn't it? Finding inspiration in the most unlikely places.
Exactly. And it reminds us that creativity thrives on breaking the rules, on challenging conventions. Sometimes those best ideas come from embracing the unconventional, from looking at things from a different perspective.
So, dear listener, as you embark on your own creative adventures, remember the lessons we've learned from this unlikely pairing. Plan meticulously, but be prepared to improvise. Embrace those moments of chaos, and above all, don't be afraid to fail spectacularly.
Because in the words of Stephen Pinkhorn, the audience will forgive almost anything, except boredom.
So go forth, dear listener, and be creative.